Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Big Ten Mafia Show here on the College Football Mafia Network. I am your host for the evening, Moen, joined by my co-host, Becky, and the returning conqueror, Sergeant Pickles, who took on the Rocky Mountains and came back to tell the tale. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good. Real good.
I'm a little tired, still recovering. It was a fun road trip, and I got to make a surprise drop in to visit our good friend Nathan Bomber Brown. He's doing well recovering there in Utah, but it was awesome to see him in person.
Yes, I understand you got to see the quote-unquote bomb shelter.
Yes, he's got quite the camera set up. It puts me to shame with my crappy single monitor and keyboard going on here.
Yes, it's good. If you didn't catch the show last night, Nathan is cancer-free. He's still in a lot of pain, but he is working through it. He is getting better every day. So thank you to all for the well wishes and prayers. Before we get started, I would also like to send out, prayers and thoughts to everybody in Florida. Another hurricane bearing down on them. If you can't get out, make sure you hunker down and stay safe. We got a lot of fans in Florida. Even Big Ten fans were everywhere, including Florida. So everybody try and stay safe, most importantly. But we're going to talk. We're going to get right into it. I'm going to go ahead and bring these up. I did it last night. I'll bring it up again. These are the results of our pick'em for week 6. Pickles and Becky finished 5-3. Rock won the day at 6-2. Bomber and Wild Ute were 500. Moen is again sub 500. And part of that, Scavin, is because I picked Rutgers over Nebraska. As you'll see, I'm wearing the Nebraska hat. I wore the Washington hat last night. So
there you go.
Congratulations. Go Big Red. Very good deal. Overall, Rock is leading everybody at 29-19. Then Wild Ute at 28-20. Then Pickles at 27-21. Then Becky at 26-22, then Bomber at 25-23, and we just won't pay attention to what Moen's doing. So take that off air right now. Let's do this. So we're going to talk a little bit about the football games this weekend. I know these guys are ready to talk Washington, Michigan, and I'm going to let them start out with that. You guys... Big win for the Washington Huskies. Michigan went on the road with their third quarterback of the season and couldn't quite pull it out.
Yeah, it was like night and day watching the offenses play. It really was. Michigan could run the football, but Washington was like, yeah, that's fine. Our corners and safeties are better than your wide receivers and tight ends. So we're gonna get you in third and long situations, and then we're gonna take our chances. You can't throw the football. Pretty much what they did. And guess what? Michigan could not throw the football. I don't recall seeing a Michigan team ever be that bad at throwing the football. That was bad. That was just. I mean, you watch the two teams throw the football. It's like night and day on their passing attacks. So, I mean, they're still a great rushing team. They ran the ball right down our throats at times. If they needed 8 yards, they got 9. But they, at the end of the day, the things that Washington needed to improve on, which was cut down your penalties, which they did. They only committed. I had to look this up. They had 5 penalties, which is a good day for us. And then they needed to strike in the red zone, and they did that. They won the turnover battle. They struck in the red zone. And, they could have, they left 6 points on the board. I mean, the blocked field goal hurt. And then, of course, the missed field goal to start the game. But when the first play is 37 yards, it's okay. It's going to be a fun one. So,
yeah, I wasn't able to watch it live. Unfortunately, had end of trip things going on. But watching the recaps, and I tried to watch the condensed version on Big Ten Network, and it looked like Washington got off to a fast start, which they haven't been able to do so far this year. They were rushing the ball pretty consistently, and as Becky said, they're avoiding the penalties because every single game, even against Wazoo and Rutgers, they were moving the ball. They were on track, moving it down the field, and a penalty set them back. And it's tough for any team to come back from a 3rd and 15 or 3rd and 20, What I was really impressed with is I think Denzel Boston firmly put himself on the map as an all Big Ten caliber receiver. He's got the frame for it. He's an NFL prospect type guy, but Will Rogers shows he does have the arm to actually put it downfield and make some big plays. And Jonah Coleman didn't have his statistical best game, but that dude is just a hammer. When you need 2 yards, he can get you 2 yards. And against a team like Michigan, even though they can't pass, sometimes you gotta slam it in against Mason Graham and those guys from the 1 yard line.
Yeah, interesting note. They brought in Tuttle, who was their 3rd quarterback of the season, if you've been counting, former backup to Michael Penix.
Yeah.
Which was, an interesting connection. Even still, while the passing game was improved by that, they did not throw for over 100 yards. Tuttle had a fumble lost and an interception. Can't win games when you're losing the turnover battle. Big win for Washington in the conference. Sending a message. Congratulations to the Washington Huskies. You made the Wolverines bow down.
Yeah. The yardage difference was, I think, 142 yards. That was it. 142 yards.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I feel a little bit vindicated because although I thought the Huskies would be 6-0 or more likely 5-1 at this point, I did call, if you go to the before the season ever started, I did call that this would be their big upset win. Strangely enough, I don't even think it was technically an upset because they were favored, but I'll take it. A little bit of vindication. I'd rather have a national championship, but beat the big time team on the big time stage, and the Huskies have another crack at it this week. Big Noon versus Iowa.
I mean, I'm just upset because I had to be a girl on Saturday and go to a friend's birthday party. And I had a friend of mine was like, "Are you going?" Like, "Hey, I got an extra ticket. Do you want to go?" Because I sold my tickets, and I made like $1,000 on them. And he's like, "Hey, do you want an extra ticket? It's $50." And I was like, "Yes." And then nope, I had to go be a girl and go to a birthday party for a friend. Wow. So I watched it.
What you do is you take that extra ticket, Becky, and you parlay that into more money.
That's what he did.
Shows up, he gets to make a new friend.
Yeah, that's what he did. I was like, man, I was upset. I could have stormed the field.
So a big upset win for the Washington Huskies. The top 10 Michigan team goes down. I was impressed with Washington. I think the thing I was most impressed about, guys, is the penalties. Not nearly as many penalties as we've seen in previous games. They're getting a little more disciplined on both sides of the ball, which is something they're going to have to do, especially down the stretch here in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and I think Michigan only committed like 1 penalty, which is par for the course for them. So
yeah. Hearing their fans explode online about that somehow Washington got all the calls, I don't know how they had that logic that somehow if Michigan doesn't get 0 penalties called and 15 against the other team, they feel slighted by the Big Ten refs. I thought it was a pretty clean officiated game from the bits I was able to see. I didn't really remember any super controversial calls other than if Coleman was down on the 1 yard line, but he slammed it in on the next play. So I think Michigan, they put up a valiant effort and tried to come back in the third. But as Becky said, Washington left points on the board and still was able to take care of business.
Well, let's say hello to some people. We got some people that filed in here tonight. We appreciate it on a Monday night. Bob Swanger's in the house. Good evening, Bob. Appreciate you. You're a member. By the way, if you guys want to support the channel at all, you can go and click the cash icon in the little chat window. From there, you can become a member, gift a membership, or leave a super chat or a super sticker. It all helps. By the way, for free, you can go ahead and hit a like. You can share the screen with people. And if you're not a subscriber, you can subscribe. Those are all free. Our Nebraska gentleman, Steven, yes, says, good evening, gentlemen. And Miss Becky. Thank you for correcting that. Illini Ted says, hello, Big Mafia family. Hello, Ted. Mo, and that hat looks great on you. Yes. See, I recognize that I lost the pick on Rutgers versus the Huskers, even though I got to, say that receiver from Rutgers who just let the ball hit him in the helmet was pretty bad. But big one for Nebraska. Good for them. Hopefully they've got some more tough games coming down the stretch. Joaquin Morales is here. He says, "Hey, CFM fam, giving mama wifey your meds will listen as I can. Smash that like button. Thank you so much, Joaquin. That means the world to us." Tempest is in the path of Hurricane Milton. Please stay safe, Tempest. Skaven, yes, says go Big Red. Nitwick says blood-sucking cow UFOs gives a whole new perspective on milk sucking. Yes, if you didn't catch that on Greg's show, there was about a 15-second discussion on cattle mutilation.
I mean, he is a UFO enthusiast.
Yeah, we're more Sasquatch country up here.
Yeah.
There you go.
And we've got a TMZ video from like Oklahoma, and everybody up here is laughing about it. That's not a Sasquatch.
Seen a lot of bad Michigan teams that could not throw the football. Only changed when their QB knew the defensive call prior to the play.
I mean, I do want to say I do want to say that they could have stolen Washington's play calls last year, but apparently Washington State had figured them out, and UW picked up on it about midway through the game. So everything got changed after that. So.
Les Austin Jr., a man of honor. You can go ahead and read this, Becky.
Congrats, Huskies, Pickles, and Becky. You won. I won't say the last part.
Okay.
I
part.
gotta say there it was like a 50-50 mix. There were definitely some Wolverines that were gracious in defeat, and a lot of the standard we got screwed, the refs hate us, the Big Ten's out to get us crowd. But Les is one of the good ones. We had a good chat after the national championship game. And I appreciate it. Your Lions are doing good. I have a theory about that you're not allowed to have a good college team and a pro team at the same time.
Well, that's certainly applicable for Ohio. So, Clint Moses says, "Congrats to UW. Y'all made the 509 proud. # bow down."
It was a rough weekend for the state of Michigan in the Pacific Northwest. It was rough. But they got Monday night, which was rough for us.
Expedition Greg says, "Hey everyone, good to see you, Greg." And then he upped his member. He's been a member for 8 months here on the channel. Thank you so much, Greg. We appreciate that. And he uses that message to send the most important message in all of college athletics: go Buckeyes. And then Illini Ted just wants to tell you, hope you had a good family vacation, Pickles.
Yeah, I was going to comment to him. I absolutely did. I managed to cover 8 national parks in 9 different states in 22 days. It was a great time. I still got 3 young kids. They may not remember it, but I will. Trip of a lifetime. And yeah, I'd encourage anyone, if you're the road tripping type, out west here is about as pretty a country as you'll find anywhere.
You brought back good weather, so we'll take that. It's not 59 degrees and sunny. 75 today.
Still got a little bit of leftover Grand Teton brewing I carried with me. It's good stuff.
Nice. Okay, so we're moving on from Washington versus Michigan to talk about 2 rivals of Washington and Michigan. The Friday night slate was Oregon versus Michigan State. Final tune-up game for the Oregon Ducks before they face the Ohio State Buckeyes this weekend. Did you guys happen to catch any of this game? What did you think?
Watched the whole thing.
Okay.
The thing that stood out, and it's the one thing that I don't know, maybe I thought this. I mean, maybe I'm not alone, but a couple of my friends who went to Oregon thought the same thing. I thought their offense would be better this year. Like, I legitimately thought, and it might be statistically, but I thought their offense was going to be far superior this year with Dylan Gabriel, because he can throw the ball downfield a little more accurately than Bo Nix. He has a little bit better arm, and he's a little more elusive. He's shorter, but he's a little more elusive. I thought their offense would be better, and then I go and watch. Every time I watch him play, he throws a stupid interception or something like he did in that first, I think it was the first quarter. He had tight end wide open, and he threw it so late. And then the credit where credit's due, that DB made a ridiculous like stretch to get that ball. But there's just times with this Oregon team that I'm like, you should be blown. They should have absolutely crushed Michigan State, and they did. But like they should. I thought they were going to drop 50 on them. I'll be honest. I thought they were going to drop 50 on them. Maybe that's just me, but I thought they were a better team than only scoring 31 points or whatever it was. I thought they'd drop like 50. I thought they'd get a 50 burger. So
I think them and Ohio State both held something back this week.
Ironically enough, I was driving through the middle of Oregon the day this game happened. I didn't stop in Eugene. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of wasting any more of my time. I will say I thought they should have handled Michigan State better. Yes, Jonathan Smith has cooked up some good stuff against Oregon, but that was after, multiple seasons of building up that Oregon State program. Oregon, to me, looks like I don't know if it's just because the expectations were so high. People were calling Ohio State, Oregon before the season for the Big Ten championship. I don't know if they're holding something back or if they're just a touch not as polished as we all thought they would be. But as you said, Moen, the big one's coming this week, and I actually kind of expect them to put up a good fight and it to be really, really close, and then a Dan Lanning brain fart will cost them the game. That's what I think will happen.
I'm hoping so.
I mean, Dan Lanning, I love him. I think he's a great coach. But not to look ahead, but he does do some stupid things to stay hyper aggressive in big games. And I don't know. And maybe it's just a Washington thing because they really haven't had many big games outside of Georgia. And, we know what happened in that game. He didn't need to have any brain farts. They got blown out. But it feels like this team is they're just not running at full speed. Like, it just feels like they're pardon my language, half-assing it half the time. Like, Idaho pushed them around. Boise State, if they had better special teams, would have beaten them. It's like, they should have lost 2 games to 2 teams they should have just, not been on the field with. Like, they should have boat raced them immediately, and then they don't. Then they turn around, they finally look great against Oregon State, and I think that Oregon State team would beat this Michigan State team by 4 scores. I don't know what to make of this team, and I know we have Duck fans watching. They have a little bit more of a pulse on this, but I'm telling you, I feel like they're just they haven't put together a complete game yet. Like, the defense is fine. Defense doesn't give up anything really, but the offense is just kind of. And their front 7 of Ohio State is going to get after Dylan Gabriel if they don't fix their offensive line this week. They've got, pressure is what you saw watching that game. So,
yeah, this is a big time game. This is going to be prime time on NBC this weekend. I will say this for Oregon. Their running back did incredibly well, had over 160 yards rushing on the ground against Michigan State. Obviously, Michigan State did have their defense depleted this year with all the transfers out, but it was an impressive running back performance. So, but again, I think Ohio State and Oregon were both holding back this weekend. They didn't want to show too much. I think this will be a close game. I like Ohio State to win it. But even if Ohio State doesn't win it, thank God we've got a 12-team college football playoff now. They can get a rematch in the conference title game and then maybe play them in the playoffs as well. So,
if this is not a close game, I'm going to eat a little crow here. But if it's a blowout of any kind, it's Oregon winning. But if it's a close game, whoever has the ball last is going to win this game. And I really feel like I'm picking the Ducks, but only because it's in Autzen. I think if that game is played in Ohio or on a neutral site, I'd probably pick the Buckeyes. It's just, by the way, weird statistic, and I think it was John Wilner who pointed this out. The conference is 0 and whatever. Not one team has won when they've had to go 2 time zones.
One team has. It's like 1 in 11, but it's ridiculously bad stat.
And it is. And everybody knew that coming in with last. Like, if you went through historically, the teams in the Big Ten, when they traveled to play the Pac-12 on the West Coast, they were historically terrible. And then it works the other way. Pac-12 schools were historically terrible going to the Big Ten. So that's partially why I'm picking Oregon. I'm just going to go with the statistics.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say this. Historically, when it's a top 4 matchup, Ohio State is wound up on top when they've played Oregon. So
this is the first top 5 matchup ever in Autzen, by the way.
There you go.
Crazy.
Speaking of Autzen, Jimmy Autzen says Ducks haven't had their foot on gas for 4 quarters yet this year.
I think he's right.
Yeah. There's times when they should have, like against Boise, and they should have dropped the hammer, but for whatever reason, I don't know if they took the foot off too early and allowed, teams to kind of hang around with them. But man, I'm thinking they're going to lose it at the end. I'm happy to be proven wrong. I could absolutely see Oregon winning this game, but I think Lanning makes a couple critical decisions, either timekeeping or just weird play calling, that'll cost him down the stretch.
Greg Pflugar's in the house. Thank you for being here, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
Buckeyes running backs will be too much for the Ducks. Greg, could you just do me a solid this week and pick Oregon? Please, sir. I don't ask much.
He's hoping for the cooler.
Was he brave enough to pick his own Golden Gophers against the vaunted USC Trojans?
I don't know that he even picked that game last week.
Okay.
He was ready to crow about it though after the game was over. He went live right away.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
Although we'll talk about that game, Greg. Still, I don't see the video evidence. Both fan bases are saying the same thing, holding back the big game.
I can see it.
A question for you all: how many big teams would be 6-0 if you had Indiana's schedule to date? Western Illinois, FIU, UCLA, Charlotte, Maryland, at Northwestern. Listen, you can't take anything away from this Indiana team. You can only play who's in front of you, and they've beaten everybody soundly.
Drop the hammer on most of those teams.
Yeah.
I watched them play UCLA start to finish. UCLA didn't belong on the field.
They have done what you're supposed to do and made bad teams look like bad teams. They're playing as well as they possibly could. And I know we had early criticism in the non-conference about them, not resting the starters and kind of running up the scores on people, but they've played well even in their couple conference games. So
yeah, they've actually exceeded expectations. I don't think if you asked anybody preseason if Indiana would be undefeated at this point in the season that they would have said that. I think they would have taken that. Maryland would have been a loss.
Well, I think we thought
UCLA.
I think, for me, I think we all thought Northwestern was going to be better than they are. They're not. But I talked to Indiana fans. They thought their loss would have been Maryland too. So,
yeah,
I figured at least 4-1, 5-1 after 5-6 weeks. So
I have certainly taken notice as a Husky fan because in about 3 weeks' time we travel to visit them in Indiana, and that game seems to carry a lot more weight. Because I thought the Huskies, not that they would roll over them, but I counted it as a handily victory in the start of the season, and now I'm having doubts.
Game's in 2 weeks, by the way.
2 weeks? Oh, okay.
2 weeks.
The bye is after that. Then.
They have the bye. They play Iowa, and then they have the bye.
Yeah.
So
that's right. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, Ohio State plays them the week before the game. That's tough. Because
don't overlook them.
They're not going to be able to hold back. They're going to have to give everything they've got to beat Indiana. Let's see. Tony Losh and Illini. Ted, you guys got Purdue this week. You better win that one. Yeah, I don't think anybody's losing to Purdue this year.
Unfortunately, Mo, and your Oregon spoiler maker theory might not hold up this year.
They're not spoiling anybody.
They're probably not. The only thing I was telling somebody and had Oregon fans kind of worried is it will be their third game in 14 days. And it's the week after Ohio State. That's tough.
Oregon could put in their second string,
yeah,
and still put 30 points on Purdue.
Just depends on how
Who
How
wins?
they do against Ohio State is how
Who
they'll
wins
take
neutral
care of
field
it.
right now, Purdue or UCLA?
UCLA.
UCLA.
Really? Okay.
I think Purdue might be the worst team in the Power Four.
Ooh, that's saying
That's
something.
rough. That's rough.
Well, I mean, we can't say much. Houston dominated the other day, so
Yeah, Houston redeemed themselves a little bit.
it might be them.
Tony Washington, if we can't beat them now, we won't ever. Yeah, if you can't beat them, right, you got a serious issue. Greg the Curse, Greg the Cold. Calls himself Greg the Cold. He's Greg the Cold.
Greg the Cooler.
But at least Greg has enough sense not to put money on these games. Some of us are stupid enough to put money on these games.
Or talking about taking craps in red cups and eating, or using dog crap and eating it in red cups.
Yes.
We've had two schools.
Michigan.
Let's
Make it.
By the way.
I want Ohio State to win, but I'm not making any. If my Oregon Duck hat gets here in time, I will wear the Oregon Ducks hat for next Monday's show. That'll be my punishment, but I will not commit to eating dog excrement.
Yeah, lesson learned: don't make insane sports bets, or the football gods will seek to punish you.
No, Barstool Sports will find it and and get a hold of you via phone number. Like somehow they get your phone number and they start messaging you. As both guys have found out.
Ohio State all the way. That 1-8 record. Only 2 of those losses was the team favored. Both of those with USC. Yeah, that's true. We'll talk about USC and Minnesota here in a second.
Crazy game.
Crazy.
What's the East-West record in the ACC? I know that Cal probably should have won that game the other night.
Yeah, all due respect to our friend Rock, but I think he even will admit that the Miami's got some favorable breaks the last 2 weeks, particularly at the ends of games.
Purdue is even worse than Florida State, and Florida State is my team. Purdue, I think, is the worst team in the Power Four.
Yeah, no, I'd take Florida State dropping 50 on them tomorrow. Yeah. Like, come on, Florida State's bad, but they're not Purdue bad.
It's bad enough I've seen Purdue fans literally like losing their minds talking about Big Ten basketball media days just to not talk about the football team.
Again, what kills me is Purdue has the best safety in the country. But you would know.
Well, they shut him down.
They did, yeah.
They shut him down. And they should have. He should not be injured playing for that team.
I would just redshirt.
Scavin, yes, you play. Oh, okay. Total Warhammer thing here. Completely went over my head. I don't mean that to sound like a slight to the Hoosiers. They're looking the part, but it is a great unknown at this point, similar to many top teams. I think we felt the same way about Rutgers, and I think Nebraska showed Rutgers. So could be as soon as Indiana plays somebody. Nitwit says Penn State not any good. USC is at home. Might be a great upset pick. Yeah, I think Illini Ted's right. You're trying to plant ideas in Greg's head. I think Penn State wins this game and covers. So USC cannot stop the run up the middle, guys. So
it's a long way to travel. It really is. But like I think there was a thing someone said it's the earliest recorded equipment truck leaving because they left yesterday.
Miami
to Los Angeles.
Yeah. Miami had to leave on a Saturday.
Yeah, that's insane.
So they could get
Welcome to 2024 college football. I don't know if we're going to touch on this in a side note because I got to bring it up so me and Becky can gloat. But in the ultimate upset weekend, watching Kalen DeBoer get foiled by by Vanderbilt, cherry on top, just chef's kiss. It was great.
It was great.
All right. So talking about upsets, we're going to move on to the next upset in the Big Ten. The Minnesota Golden Gophers with a late tush push upset the USC Trojans. Trojans had to travel to Minnesota to play this game. I'm just going to say it right now. I am happy for the Gophers. I'm glad y'all won. Good for you. I don't understand how you can overturn it based on the video evidence that was provided.
Yeah.
It has to be undisputable video evidence. You can't see the ball. I have to say that I'm not 100% sure that was the right call. But on the good side, the Big Ten did you a solid, I think. They made up for that offsides call on the onside kick. But, yeah, I'm glad you won, but I don't know what constitutes indisputable evidence anymore in a replay.
No, I have no idea. And I mean, like, if this is like a makeup call for whatever happened the week before, it sucks for USC because they had nothing to do with that. But I don't know how you overturn that. I don't. Like,
Tony brings this up. Maybe because half his body was in the end zone. You still got to tell me where the ball crossed the line.
Yeah. Ball still across the line before it comes out of his hands. Like,
yeah, I don't know where the ball's at in that situation.
Oh, it
if
is.
you can't see the ball, and this should be an easy technological issue that, you can scan a thing of cottage cheese and tell it went over a scanner at the supermarket. Why can't we put a chip in a ball to see if it breaks the goal line?
I was going to say, we have Amazon Go stores here in Seattle. You just walk in and walk out. There's no cashier, and you still get charged. I don't understand how we can't tell that a ball has crossed the white line painted on the ground.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Tony, you're probably right. The ball probably did cross the goal line, but
can't see it.
You can't see it, so how can you say that's indisputable? I'm just looking for consistency here, brother.
Nope.
I just want consistency on what a catch is, what targeting is, what the replay rules are, what offsides is on an onside kick.
I mean, we already don't know what targeting is, so because we keep seeing every darn year, we see a stupid play where, we're targeting, and you're like, how?
In the Rutgers game, Washington had an offensive lineman called for targeting.
Yeah.
That kind of shows you how inconsistent it is.
Well, you can apparently just get the ACC refs, and they won't call it even when a guy launches himself.
Yeah, Tony, again, big win for the Gophers. I want a little clarity and consistency. I don't know. If maybe they'd explained it, that might have helped a little bit. If they just said, hey, more than his body was, instead of just coming out and saying, we overturned it, it's a touchdown. Tempest says, I love that Vandy beat Bama. There you go.
Everybody liked that.
Yeah, I don't think
every single other fan base is happy that happened. It's not just a hateful Kalen DeBoer haters wearing purple up here. I'm pretty sure whenever like a perennial bottom feeder underdog beats a top ranked team and carries their own goalpost a half mile to throw it in a river, that's what college football is all about, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, it's funny. I went to go get a hat this weekend. Becky lagged out on us, I think.
Yep, something's happening.
I went and got a hat this weekend at the hat store. I actually went and picked up a hat that I ordered. They had Vanderbilt hats in stock last week. After that game on Sunday afternoon, all the hats were gone.
Let's go. Love it.
So there you go for Vanderbilt. Everybody's happy for Vandy to beat that.
Yeah, watching an Alabama player just have a meltdown in the last few snaps of the game was a little bit personal vindication. I enjoyed it. Not even going to hide the fact that I was just eating every second of it.
USFL does that with the ball crossing the goal line. That's
Yep. The technology's there. They don't use it for some reason. And I have to give the NFL credit, Mo, and I'm sure you've seen they've been a lot better in that instant review and then the official kind of announcing what happens this season. It seems like they're trying to get the fans more clarity.
Yeah, definitely. Officiating and especially replay officiating have been very questionable this year. I think officiating's questionable every year, depending on who you are.
I thought Pac-12 refs were bad, but the Big Ten refs this year have
the consistency is great.
Happy, some of these games, I feel like none of these players can like breathe without getting a 5-yard penalty. So,
Yogi Roth on Big Ten Network today said it obviously a touchdown. He was calling the game and is a huge USC guy.
He's a Pitt guy,
not indisputable.
From Pitt, like he's a Pac-12 guy, but make no mistake, he Yogi Roth's a straight shooter as far as analysts go. If he thinks he was in, then he thinks he was in.
Yeah.
He's not going to whitewash it for USC.
Yeah. He coached at USC under Pete Carroll, but he went to Pitt. So he is like, outside of that, he has nothing on that.
Keep chopping. Mo and Rutgers hat cursed us. Who does Nebraska play this week? Because I want to put some money against that team if that's the case.
Are they on bye?
They probably are. I haven't looked at next week's slate of games beyond the big ones.
They are off this week.
Okay. So there
This
you go.
week's slate of games across all conferences is absolutely crazy.
Yes,
Yeah,
we will
good
talk a
games
little.
going.
We'll talk a little bit about it. But maybe Dylan Riola will get injured this week or something because I wore the hat. How about those Hogs?
Woo Pig Suey, let's go.
There you go. I made sure to reach out and congratulate Jamie Thornton on that win. That's a big win for that program.
That's huge.
Knocking off the top 5.
I was laughing with my Tennessee friend, and I have a friend whose dad played for Bear Bryant at Alabama, so we were having a good chuckle.
Yeah. Even the Alabama fans had someone to laugh at that wasn't them. It was a weird weekend.
It was a weird
Keep Chopping says he was in, but it wasn't undisputable enough to overturn. That's my point. I think he definitely did cross the goal line. I think the ball crossed the goal line, but if you write the rule as undisputable, you can dispute that. So, but moving on, Indiana housed Northwestern 41-24. Interesting enough, they could have taken some time off the clock here. Indiana did not hesitate to run that score up in that game.
No.
Yeah, it was a 14.5-point spread. They were not going to cover. There was less than 2 minutes left, and they were out there slinging the ball.
Yeah, Kurt Cignetti is he's Spartan kicking people off the end when it comes to the end of games. He's not letting up at all.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing, but eventually you're going to play a really good team, and then they're watching this tape, and they're going to go, "You're not going to do that to us," and they might do it to them. So, goes around, comes around.
Yeah. It is a careful what you wish for kind of thing.
It is. Was it Sirianni or Schiano who used to do it at when he was the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? When his guys would, they're doing the kneel down, his guys would slam into him trying to force a fumble. Every team saw that happen once, and they never let it happen again. So they just started running it and throwing it at him, all up 20. So.
Then we had UCLA against Penn State. UCLA came across the country. Penn State looked okay, not great. I was a little surprised. The spread on this was 28.5, and they clearly did not even cover that on their points total. So, of course, UCLA did get a touchdown late. That was kind of a garbage time touchdown, but still. You'd expect to see more out of Penn State.
Yeah. I mean, it was 16 seconds left on that touchdown, but they still wouldn't have covered. It was 27-3.
Yeah, it seems like
State is like Oregon. They just don't put their foot down on the gas and keep going. They just kind of they take it off. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, James Franklin's content to just win." I get that, but sometimes, just beat them. Just go out and beat them. Who cares? They're grown men. If you don't want 50 dropped on you, don't let them score 50. So.
It seems like Penn State's MO this year, they have a really strong game, then a so-so game, then a really strong game, then a so-so game. I don't know how this bodes for this upcoming week, but with how much talent and their kind of aspirations of taking Michigan's place and challenging Oregon, getting into the Big Ten championship, you got to put back-to-back strong performances, or one of these weeks someone like an Indiana is going to take you out.
Or like a USC this week. I mean, it's not a given that Penn State's going to beat USC. You've heard the stat about traveling across time zones. So
even in the Coliseum, USC isn't known to have the greatest home atmosphere, but it's at home. And when that crowd's going and all the celebrities are showing up like they will for a Penn State game, yeah, it's a big deal.
They're going to be there. It's a night game in the Coliseum. They're going to be there. Everybody's going to be there. There are going to be 80,000 people in those stands. USC fans will show up to that game. They will be there. It's not going to be loud because the Coliseum is not loud, but they're going to be in it, and the stars are going to be walking around. Everybody who went to USC, graduated from USC, Will Ferrell, Snoop Dogg, they're all going to be there. No doubt in my mind, they're all going to show up.
I give it a 99% chance Pete Carroll's there.
Yeah.
He's that kind of guy. He likes the spotlight.
He's teaching at USC, so he might be there.
And then the last game, we've touched on this throughout. Rutgers went on the road and lost to Nebraska 14-7. Pretty much a defensive struggle. Mononganai didn't hit 100 yards this game. Huge, great job by the Nebraska defensive line there. They absolutely contained the top weapon for Rutgers. Wasn't an exciting game, guys, but Nebraska did enough to win it, which is what counts.
I'm still shocked the dude dropped that ball wide open.
Yeah, it's just
horrible.
I mean, he was already looking to score, and that ball hit him. I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
I saw that ball get thrown, and I was like, oh, they're gonna score.
All right.
Keep chopping. Don't despair. You still got a good team and a good running back, but you better be a little bit two-dimensional, because if some of the defensive lines they got in the Big Ten can stop Monongai, it's hard to do, but man, 7 points with a guy like that, you got to be able to put more on the board.
Yeah, I mean, like you played Washington tough.
Well, and that's the thing. Kaliak McManus had more yards than Nebraska did.
Yeah,
it was just they couldn't.
It seems kind of crazy, but I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Again,
they couldn't put it all together.
Nebraska for the second week in a row, Rutgers actually outgained Nebraska by only 3 yards. 264 total yards, 261.
Oh, that's low.
That is, I'll say it, like Washington held you to below 300 yards. Nebraska just did it, and you can't throw the football. It is a big problem if you cannot throw the football,
or at least consistently
big
enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
If they stop you on first and second, you're behind the change. They know the pass is coming. I think that's when Rutgers is in trouble, because he can complete those short passes to kind of keep the engine moving as they're rushing the ball, and he just throws just enough. But when you got a pass to win a game in your Rutgers, that's tough. That's a really tough spot to be in.
Yeah, I think it was Black that dropped that football, Tony. But he had 2 catches for 54 yards and a touchdown. So
yeah, he was a freshman, but I think anybody at like a junior high level could have caught that pass.
Yeah, that ball was dropped on his hands, and those gloves, I mean, like air sticks to him. So.
Yes, refs did take a touchdown off the board.
Yes.
Can't leave it in the officials' hands.
Yeah, we found that out twice.
Saw USC tickets are less than $40. Think their fans checked out. They're going to be Penn State fans there.
You should probably check and see where you should check and see where those tickets are, because they may not be good. There's seats in the Coliseum where you can't see half the field. So
yeah. Keep in mind that is a 100-year-old retrofitted Olympic venue. It's not a purpose-built football stadium. So yeah, there are some bad seats. They've tarped off an end just because they moved where the field was. Fans will show up. They USC is an entertainment event for most of the people that go there. There are hardcore fans. We have Becky and I both have hardcore USC friends and alumni. But as far as who actually fills up the stadium, you got to be a bigger headliner in town than all the other events going on in Los Angeles. And Penn State, that's a headliner. People will show up for that game.
Yeah, like Washington was the same thing last year when they went to the Coliseum. The tickets were like $30, $40. The thing was completely sold out. So just because they're $30 does not mean $40 does not mean that USC fans don't show out. They will show out. They will be there, root on their team. Like Pickle said, it's Los Angeles. You have got to be the biggest thing to do, or people just have to have nothing else to do. And Penn State's going to bring in people because of their name.
Penn State's going to travel well.
And their fans travel, and they have alumni there. They have a huge alumni base in LA, from what I was told. So, yeah, it's going to be a good mix. The Coliseum's never like 90-10 or anything like that. It's usually like a 60-40 split. So.
Let's start with the games for next week. Let's take a look at them. Northwestern at Maryland on Friday night.
Not a lot there.
The most unexciting matchup they could have come
Yeah.
up with for Friday night. I have
At
no
least it's
desire
not
to
Friday.
watch this game.
I mean,
It's
Maryland's
not
still interesting.
Yeah.
No offense, Northwestern, but Maryland's still interesting.
If this game were being played on the lake, I'd watch it.
There you go.
So I like watching that game. I like watching the games on that field. They only got one game left on that field, so it's kind of like sad.
I just can't get excited for that game. Sorry. And then big noon kickoff. The Washington Huskies travel to Kinnick to play the Iowa Hawkeyes. That's a noon start time, guys. That's 9 a.m. West Coast.
Oh, that's normal for us. We're talking mimosas, Bloody Marys, brunch, and football. That's how we get down on the West Coast.
Yeah, that's like NFL Sundays.
As far as the players,
that
though, Tony brings up a good point. The body clock is a rough thing, as we have seen so far.
They're practicing at 9 a.m. all week. They're practicing in the morning. They're going to practice before classes and everything, so they're going to be in the dark, most likely, for part of it. But yeah, they're practicing in the morning. They practiced yesterday. Jed Fish was on the radio today. They practiced yesterday. They're going to fly out on Thursday after practice. So they got like another 9 a.m. practice on Thursday. They're going to do walkthrough at 9 a.m. on Friday, 10:30 or something like that, local time. And then they're going to, basically they put themselves on the clock all week. So they kind of already prepared for this. They're NFL coaches, so they know exactly what to do to kind of get the body clock going. And then leaving on a Thursday, they'll be fine by Saturday morning. The big issue for us is they already start. They already start slow. I don't know if anybody's watched them play. They start slow.
Yeah, this last week went so well because they didn't start slow.
Yeah, it's the only game they haven't started slow. I will say this though. Can Iowa throw the football consistently enough to score? Because guess who has the number 8 defense in the nation? It's not Iowa.
No. Huskies can stop the run okay. They didn't totally contain Monangai, but it's not like Rutgers was just totally peeling them open. But our Huskies pass defense can hang with most units in the country. They're long and they're very good.
They only give up 4.5 yards per play.
Yeah. If you got to pass at Iowa, good luck. They're not going to pass it, but they might have to. That's what we're saying.
That's as far as Iowa can throw, right?
That's as far as Iowa throws the ball. I mean, I think probably 95% of their passes in that game against Ohio State were 5 yards or less.
We got good linebackers, so that helps.
There's only one player in the secondary under 6 feet tall. Everybody else is 6'3" or 6'4". This player is 5'11".
They'll play man coverage right up on the line of scrimmage. So just because you're only throwing short, they'll come flying in after you.
Yeah,
I'm excited. If Iowa turns it into a game that makes my eyes want to bleed, I'm not going to feel so good. But it only takes. I legitimately think it's going to take 1 or 2 Will Rogers chucking it down and Denzel Boston hauling it for 30, 40 yards and possibly a touchdown, and it's going to be tough for Iowa to keep up.
Yeah.
That's what I think. That's the Huskies' winning strategy.
Score 22.
Good news is that Iowa's defense is soft if you get them deep.
Yeah. We got receivers. We got dudes.
It also helps to have a couple of decent, good running backs. We don't have the best running backs in the conference, but we have 2 really good running backs. And the old line, having never played together until fall camp, not bad. Yeah. So they'll be fine.
I am concerned we possibly have one of our starting D tackles. I don't know if Fish said he could play, but that is where I think Iowa could hurt you, is they just eat clock and run a 10-minute drive and slowly get a touchdown. Is even if the Huskies can keep up, if you're just eating the clock and taking air out of the ball, that can be really frustrating.
I'm concerned. I'm more or less concerned about the Iowa tight ends. They're always really good. They can catch. They're the only guys that I'm like, okay, they can catch the football. And you don't want 250-pound dudes running around in your secondary. It's just not ideal. So
yeah.
Yep. Let's talk. Let's see. Sure as bleak in Purdue land looks worse than some Rutgers teams. Yeah, it's bad.
It's not great.
Not great.
Purdue only top 400 rated recruit decommitted this week. Walters has to go. I said this to Greg. I said this on Sunday night show. Hire Jason Candle, guys. He wins at Toledo. He knows what he's doing. Call him up. Make him the offer. Don't
Yeah,
even
if
wait
they
till
will-
the season's over.
The Big Ten is an arms race, and you got to get some energy in your program. You can't just hire the same old type guys anymore.
I mean, Jed Fish said it best today. He said what he's talking about. They asked him about the difference in offenses. He goes, "We're not in the Pac-12 anymore. This is different." You know, they had to change and adapt their ability to play. It's time everybody kind of gets on that. Like Purdue has to change how they figure out who's coaching the team. So
Yeah, here's the problem. They had so many good offensive weapons there at Purdue, and they hired a defensive coach.
yeah,
They should have went out and got an offensive coach.
should have got an
to
offensive
replace
guy.
him. Scaven
needed-
just says, "Go Huskies, beat Iowa."
Absolutely. Go Dogs. I
Dogs.
think that's an alternate reality, but I think a dude like Luke Fickell with his offensive mindset would have been great at Purdue, but instead he ends up at Wisconsin.
Well, Fickle was more of a defensive coach anyway. He played defensive tackle. He was defensive coordinator at Ohio State.
But he
his
wants to put
problem
up points. He wants to put
he
up
does
points.
want to put up points. He just didn't have the player.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of them, they got Rutgers at 9 a.m. as well. What do you guys think?
The Wisconsin Badgers. They got
Wisconsin Badgers with Rutgers.
Is
Yes,
it
that
in-
one's-
They're at Rutgers. They're in New Jersey.
that's at Piscataway. Yeah.
Ooh, that's tough.
Hmm.
Once if the Monungai train keeps going, he's hard to stop. So good luck.
Yeah.
Rutgers is favored by 3 in that game.
Only
That sounds
3?
about right.
I mean, only 3? I would have thought it meant at least a touchdown. No offense to Wisconsin fans, but you're not the best team offensively or defensively that like Rutgers is going to play anytime soon. But okay.
Yeah, they're basically calling it a push on a neutral field, which I would actually think Rutgers is slightly favored.
I would still put Rutgers as a favorite on a neutral field. I see it's tough on Wisconsin because former players have started coming out. They hate the new offense. They want to go back to the old offense, running the football. And I mean, I get it, but Fickle hasn't had enough time to actually get his guys in there and to run it. Like he's running the air raid. Mike Leach couldn't do it at Wazoo right away. Like he had the quarterback, he didn't have the guys to like catch the football, and it took him a couple of years. And then when he finally got them, he got hired at Mississippi State, where he died before he could actually. We actually saw the fruition of that. Will Rogers was one of those guys. Had great times under him. So
yeah, the right personnel and system matters because, like Becky was saying at Wazoo, Luke Falk could put up 700 yards and Wazoo would still lose.
Still lose.
You got to have the right guys and the right system.
I think Jared Goff put up 800 on them in that game, and they ran the air raid. So, kind of shows you how hard you got to like build your team. But yeah, I don't know. I like Rutgers more in that game than I do Wisconsin, mostly because Wisconsin has played like they have not put together a complete game themselves, other than Purdue.
Kinnick is a tough environment. The Wave is super cool, though. One of my favorite traditions in the Big Ten. One of the newer ones, but it's still really cool.
Yeah, I'm sad I had to miss it. I originally planned to make it out for this game, but obviously with the family trip and other things going on, I wasn't able to go. Next time for sure, Iowa.
Washington players will learn that Iowa fans literally will steal helmets and gear from the sideline. They are right on top of you, and you've got that pink locker room to deal with.
Yeah. Jed Fish coached at Michigan. He probably knows a little thing or two about this. So
yeah.
Noah Immaculate on the panel to give his take on the game versus Becky and Sergeant Pickles.
Mo, are you going to bully him into coming on this week?
I actually talked to him. We were chatting back and forth during the game, and he was at the point with Iowa where he was just like, blow him out. Yeah, that's the only way. That's the only way we're gonna get some change around here. He said, "Go ahead, blow him out." And I'm like, "Dude, they're gonna put in the second string."
Man,
and he's like, "No."
You've lost the plot when even Immaculate is off the Kirk Ferentz train.
It's not Kirk Ferentz problem, man. It's God. He just doesn't want to get away from like an offense.
Time has passed him by.
Yeah,
like,
the game's passed him by.
Washington is running a pro-style offense. If people don't notice that, we're running a pro-style offense. That is what a pro-style offense looks like. Under center occasionally, but mostly in shotgun. And
I will say
pull
this
back,
on
but-
record. I will say this on record. I think the Huskies win close. However, I would not be shocked if this game gets out of hand and Washington is just like walking long touchdowns down the field because Iowa can't adjust.
Yeah, if I'm an Iowa fan, I'm very concerned about the receiving core for Washington. They're fast, they're long, and they run great routes. I mean, they're former grub guys. They are all former grub guys. They run great routes. Every single one of them run great routes. Jackson and Boston are a menace. Boston specifically is a menace. He's 6'3", 6'4", 220. He is an absolute menace catching the football. So Jackson's like 5'10", but he's probably the fastest guy on the field every time. So
not saying we're Ohio State talent-wise, but the Big Ten, we knew they needed to adjust. You were basically adding 3 Ohio States stylistically, not talent-wise, but you were adding 3 new Ohio States stylistically to your conference. You can't just keep doing it the same way forever. The same way Washington can't do it the same forever. You got to run the ball a little bit and play some defense.
I mean, Purdue is about to see an old Big Ten offense. They're about to see that old Wisconsin offense. Hand the ball off, throw. Hand the ball off.
If you're feeling a bit of nostalgia, tune in for the Purdue games.
God, I was just thinking, I just looked at it, and Illinois is favored by 19.5.
I'm taking the Illini.
Taking the points and the Illini. Good God. That is, I'm laughing because it's Illinois. They're not that good. They're gonna beat them by like 40.
Candle signed an extension today. Not sure that means a ton, though. Yeah, you guys wondered why Toledo and Northern Illinois were brought up as going to the Mountain West. This is the reason why they needed money to sign their coaches to long-term deals. Purdue still can outpay Toledo.
Yeah,
it's going to be up to Jason Candle. Jason Candle's going to have his choice of job. He can go to Purdue. He can go to Cincinnati. I think you're going to see lots of jobs open up that he's going to be in the market for.
I think I've said this to people. I'm like, the Power 2, there isn't a single team that can't outpay anybody else. They all can. That includes the Vanderbilts. Who are now the powerhouse of the SEC, but even they can outpay them. So,
other than maybe the very tippy tops of like the ACC can match.
Yeah, Florida State and Clemson are probably like the very, and maybe UNC, but yeah, not many that can do it.
Purdue wanted to reimagine themselves as a defensive team similar to Wisconsin, wanting to change from ground and pound. Neither has gone super well so far. Yeah,
they should just swap.
But Ted, if I take if I combine the two, they're still trash. I could combine the two teams; they're still bad.
Wisconsin's not a bad team. They just
but I mean, taking Wisconsin's offense with Purdue's defense, still not winning football games. Vice versa.
I want to clarify. Luke Fickell's a good coach, and Wisconsin's a good team. They haven't got over the hump yet.
It takes a little bit of time to get the right guys. And I know people are like, we live in this world where I want the Kalen DeBoer experience. It doesn't always work like that, guys.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Penn State going to USC. The line favors Penn State by 6.
It's about right.
Fair.
Touchdown. I could see USC maybe losing by like 3. They could also win close. Like, I think it's right within that plus or minus 7 points either way window. I don't think it's going to be one-sided.
It's Penn State. They'll kick 2 field goals, and they might feel that that's enough to beat you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think Penn State, you're ranked number 4 now. I think you can't have an inconsistent game. You need to go out there and perform.
You got to make a statement. This is your chance.
I think, like, if you have struggled against the other 2 blue bloods in the conference in the years past, you have to go out and beat USC. You've got to beat USC. Like, otherwise you're just going to have this thing where he can't win these big games against big-time opponents. USC might not be ranked anymore, but they're still a big-time opponent. You don't bring your A game, you're going to get beat. There's 5-star players littered throughout that team. You can't take them easy. Like, just go out and beat them. Like, that's what if you're Penn State, just go out and beat them. Because if you let them hang around, they're going to beat you. Moss is a great quarterback. They have the best quarterback out of both teams.
Yeah, Drew Aller's really opened up with the new offensive coordinator this year.
But they still, again, they have the quarterback whisperer, Heisman Trophy guy as their head coach. They have the best quarterback on the field. They're going to have the best passing attack. USC will be able to throw the football. You have to weather that, or you're going to get beat. They're going to walk out there 5 wide. So
then we kind of touched on it, Purdue at Illinois. I don't think anybody's picking Purdue. You're right. The game is 19.5. The over-under is 50.5.
I'm somehow bidding Illinois and the over, but I'm betting under on the total. Like I'm taking Illinois in the points, but I'm somehow betting under. I think Purdue's going to do so poorly.
It feels like Illinois is going to win that game 36-6. Like that's it. Like it feels like that. That's how it's going to be. They're going to blow them out, but only win by 20.
Yeah, it might be. And then we've got Minnesota hosted an LA team last week. They're going to LA this week. They're playing at UCLA. Minnesota finally gets to make a trip to the Rose Bowl, Tony. Congratulations for your Golden Gophers for doing that. I see Minnesota winning this one, but it's going to be close. I think UCLA is going to play them tough.
It's going to be close, but it's a Minnesota home game, so I'm going Minnesota.
All right. This is Sergeant Pickles' drop the hammer moment of the week. Golden Gophers, a lot of friends in chat. And Greg, you got the big one last week. I'm putting my foot down. You better freaking win this game or I'm not cheering for you for the rest of the year. You got one chance to step out of the Big Ten shadows of everyone above you and actually put yourself in the top half of the conference and kind of the good teams conversation. Do not do what you have done the past few years and blow it when all the eyeballs are on you because you're playing well. Get it done. Beat UCLA. They're not good. And the Rose Bowl is not an exciting place to be when it's not the actual Rose Bowl. It's just a big empty bowl.
It's on Big Ten Network. It's on Big Ten Network for a reason. So if you embarrass yourself, not as many eyeballs as if it was on like CBS or something.
I'm cheering for you, Minnesota. Like you've let me down a couple times. I thought you had the comeback done against North Carolina. Let me down. Finally beat USC. Get it done. I'm cheering for the Gophers, but man, you can't disappoint me 3 times in a season.
I do gotta correct myself. I thought the Penn State USC game was a night game for some stupid reason.
It's 3:30.
Yeah, it's 12:30. So.
Yeah, talking about Big Ten media deal. You want to know why they got paid $100 million? Washington at Iowa, Penn State at USC, Ohio State at Oregon.
That slate is insane.
Yeah.
That is so good. And you look, I'd like full credit to the other conferences. There's 3 or 4 other good games. I'll be double screening most of the day if I can.
Yeah, the SEC has the Red River rivalry.
Yeah.
Red River, that's huge.
They have.
I think LSU is a big game.
Ole Miss is at LSU.
LSU, Ole Miss, both ranked.
And then they have, well, now it's kind of interesting. Vanderbilt, Kentucky.
That is interesting.
And then they also have Alabama and
Big 12
South Carolina. So,
yeah, everyone who hates realignment, just go look at the schedule and it'll make sense.
Yeah, because the Big 12 schedule would have been great if Arizona had been better this year. So they got BYU in Arizona, and then Kansas State's at Colorado.
Oh, come on, K-State. Do us a favor, please.
But Iowa State's at West Virginia, so that's also going to be a good one in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Good games. Game. Yeah, good games all around.
None are bigger than the game for the conference title here in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
None.
2 versus 3, big time matchup.
This is insane.
Does this beat Georgia, Alabama?
As far as numbers, as far as ratings,
wise. Yeah,
should. It's gonna get close.
Close. I'll say no. Well, if it's a better game, I think it does. Is that fair? If it's a close game and there's intrigue for neutrals, I think it does.
I think NBC having it on NBC helps. Having it on primetime helps. Having no other great game on at that time. The Red River rivalry is at 12:30 or 9. It's basically a 9 a.m. Pacific start. So that game's during the middle of the fair. They always played at the same time. Having no other game that's even comparable to that game at the same time, it absolutely could, because that's what Alabama and Georgia were able to do, they didn't have a great game next to it. So nobody tuned out. Question will be, can they hit the high? Like they might hit the average. Can they hit the high? Because the last 5 minutes of that game were ridiculous viewer-wise. Like 20 million people watched the last 5 minutes. If it's compelling, it absolutely will. If it's a blowout, no. And I think it's going to be huge numbers.
I think it's going to do huge numbers. The spread on it's only 3 favoring Ohio State right now. That's probably going to drop to 1.5 and be a pick 'em.
Yeah. And I mean, both Big Noon and Game Day are there. It's like Washington and Iowa have the Big Noon crew with, Gus and what's his name? But
Klatt.
Yeah, Joel Klatt and Gus are calling the Iowa Washington game, but Big Noon is at Eugene. So Eugene is hosting 2 events at the same time. And if you've ever been to Eugene, the campus is not the biggest campus. So this is going to be a little tight, especially around the stadium. You got a river on one side. So it's going to be a little cramped, but this should be a lot of fun. It's a good big game, and they're going to hype that thing up. I think it's going to get the numbers. Question will be how much ESPN hypes it because they're not actually airing it, even though they're physically there.
As I say, Game Day, they got to talk about it. It'll have the mascot. I don't know. Are they wheeling Corso out there for his best friend, the Duck, to stop by?
Oh,
he hasn't been.
Duck will probably bring him out. Yeah.
I hate that damn Duck.
And he has no names. For those who don't know, the Duck does not have a name. He is simply the Duck.
We all call him Puddles. You know that. His nickname is Puddles. Even Washington.
The university does not recognize that, and I don't want the Evil Mouse Company coming after me for saying
that. Tony Washington wants to know: do you think Rutgers is better than Iowa?
Yes.
Yes.
Play that game 10 times. Rutgers wins at least 6.
What, against us?
No, against Iowa.
Oh, against Iowa, yeah. I'm like, against us.
Play the game against Washington. I think it might be a dead split.
I think it's a 9. I think they got the 1 win out of 10. But we had 300 yards more offense. We should have had like 40 more points.
It is what it is. Penalties will kill you.
Yep.
Signetti is setting unrealistic expectations for other teams. Rebuilds usually take much longer, like 3 to 4 years. My Illini are just getting to that time frame now. Keep in mind, though, Brady Hoke came in and took over the Michigan program and went 11-1 his first season.
That's Michigan. That's a little different when you're blue blood recruiting every year, even with
but that was coming off of Rich Rod.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, Rich Rod, it's not like Rich Rod had terrible recruiting classes. He recruited well at Arizona.
Yeah, they're pretty.
They just didn't play well.
But I'm just saying, let's see him actually win. He hasn't played anybody yet. We've put that out there. Let's see. Let's not, put the cart before the horse and give him a huge extension after this year.
I don't know who they got coming up, but they got Washington in a couple weeks, and I know they got other big teams on the back.
They got Ohio State.
Yep, they got Ohio State.
Yeah, they got Ohio State next week, right?
No, they got Ohio State the week before the game.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Really? Oh, boy.
Aller is 5th in efficiency, Moss 72nd. I like Penn State's chances. Yeah, I like Penn State in that game.
Yeah, Penn State close.
Florida versus Tennessee, and then Tempest says pick Florida to upset Tennessee.
Napier saving his job. Let's go. I mean, that'd be huge. Is it in the swamp?
No.
Skevin says that is next week. I can't imagine it being in the swamp this week because of the hurricane.
Right. Makes sense.
They'll probably move it to a neutral field. I want Tennessee, but UF really found a rhythm against UCF. We'll see.
Yeah, the game is in Knoxville, by the way. So
okay, it's in Knoxville.
I'm not saying they should have, but UCF could have won that game. That's so frustrating.
PSU Jim says looking for PSU to get a lot of sacks this week.
Yeah, if there's an issue with the O-line, there's an issue with the O-line at USC. Has been for a couple of seasons. But it tends to be because the quarterbacks hold the ball forever.
I forget the kid's name, but that Penn State edge is an absolute monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, number 11.
Yeah.
USC defense is in the 70s, and Miller Moss is only averaging 7 yards per attempt.
It's fire by volume. It doesn't matter. He'll still put up 400 yards even if he has to pass it 40 times or 50 times. You still got to stop him.
Yeah, the question, like the big questions for Penn State, can you keep the deep ball from becoming a problem? Because they're going to go deep, and they're going to go deep often.
Limit big plays.
Yeah, you got to limit the big play.
Jim says Iowa's only half a team. Caleb Johnson's a good running back. It's just, the game plan is just contain him and you beat him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for like Iowa, everybody's been able to run the ball pretty well in Washington. Not great, but they run it pretty well. But Iowa gets stuck. Washington's going to be okay with you being in 3rd and 11 or 3rd and 9 situations that you can't run for that. So
pass it. I dare you.
They're basically daring you to throw the football at this point. And Steve Belichick is a massive upgrade as a defensive coordinator. He's going to come up with something. So, plus his dad was there this week. I don't know if everybody saw that. His dad was at the game on Saturday.
And Pete Carroll, weirdly enough.
Here,
Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick in the stadium at the same time.
Yep.
UCLA's defense is actually statistically better than USC's.
Who have they played? That's my
they haven't really played anybody. I think Penn State was
I get except for Penn State, right?
But they played Penn State tough. They played LSU tough.
Oh, yeah, I guess it's true.
Yeah, they played LSU tough, but LSU's
LSU's not.
LSU's offense isn't like.
I'm not sold on LSU.
Great. Yeah, I fully expect Ole Miss to beat them pretty well this weekend, and they're playing it in Baton Rouge, but I think they're gonna. Ole Miss should beat them pretty handily. So.
Jackson Dart's gonna smoke them.
Yeah.
One good thing about this week, Greg can't curse my Huskers. There you go, Stabin.
But Moen
Abdul Carter.
Yes.
Abdul Carter is number 11 in Penn State.
All right, yeah. I'm worried about him already.
Yeah.
UCLA has played 3 ranked teams. There you go.
Yeah, and they made one of Indiana look like they're going to be the next national champs.
Technically true. I don't know that it would be aesthetically true. Ferentz would rather punt on 3rd and 11.
He probably will. He might have to. God.
They'll never see it coming. Man, again, it's totally if, but if Washington can pass the ball, it's going to be a long day in Iowa City for them.
Yeah, it's the same thing in Eugene. If the Ducks cannot stop that rushing attack by the Buckeyes, it's going to be a long day in Eugene.
Long day.
The tale of 2 different things. We have one team who can't throw the football, another team who can do both. But Chip Kelly wants to hand the ball off 45, 50 times because he has 2 All-American running backs. This could be a great weekend of football. I can't wait. You get complete contrasting games to start and finish the day. It's going to be great.
Yeah, this is realignment weekend in a nutshell, and I'm all about it.
I'm all about this.
All right, we're going to end it with this, and we'll do our one for the road. Tempest says, isn't Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick looking for jobs, or is Pete still with the Seahawks?
Nope.
Pete is currently teaching a class, and I don't remember what the class is. He's teaching at Southern California. So he's at USC teaching some class. I'm not sure what it is, but he loves it. He's got a nice little office down there. Still has his house in Seattle. Comes up here occasionally for games. But Bill's not actively looking for anything. He's Bill Belichick. He's the greatest.
Does whatever he wants, man.
He's the greatest coach to ever coach football, period. And that includes both college and NFL because it's hard to win 6 Super Bowls at the NFL. That's insane.
Yep.
Lombardi might guy can compete.
Sergeant Pickles, this is your line. What's one for the road?
My one for the road is that I've been on the road and it's good to be back. I had an awesome trip. I caught as many shows as I could, but of course I didn't have service half the time. But it's good to see everybody. Moen, I just want to say a special thank you to you and Becky for holding it down. I know you guys have no idea how much work Moen puts on the back end for all of our shows. And it's good to be back. I'm happy to be here. Got an awesome weekend of football to be home for. But thank you again to Moan and Becky for taking care of the Big Ten Mafia show in my absence.
Glad to have you back, Pickles.
Glad to have you
Becky,
back.
what's your one for the road?
We are in the midst of 50 consecutive days of football.
Boo, boo, boo.
Get some Maction get started tomorrow. Tuesday night Maction.
Let's go.
But reality, it's I think Conference USA. It's FIU and Liberty. But we get Tuesday night football starting tomorrow. This is the best time of year. Football every day, and there's nothing else going on because hockey's not starting yet, and basketball's not starting yet. And baseball's playing crappy baseball playoff because
we're Mariners fans. We don't have baseball to look forward to in October.
Yeah, we don't look forward to baseball
not
after
a thing here.
We don't look forward to baseball after July. But big thing. Army and Navy are both 5-0, first time since like 1945.
Go Navy, beat Army.
And does not matter. Their game against each other will not matter for the playoff at all, unless they meet in the AAC championship, which is really weird to say.
How does that work?
Because they play a week after.
Oh,
okay. Like early December. So if one of them are to make the playoff, some team is going to get a bye and then gets to play like 2 weeks later. It's kind of crazy. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I will just say this. Coosaction doesn't have nearly the same ring as Maction. So you can keep that CUSA trash to yourselves. Throw up Toledo versus Ohio. That's what we want to see. We will see you guys next Monday for another episode of the Big Ten Mafia Show. Tomorrow night at 8, it'll be myself, you, and Daniel Gygax on the Big 12 Mafia Show. Same channel, same time, 8 p.m. East. I want to thank Becky and Sergeant Pickles for joining me this week, and I want to wish everybody, if you're in Florida, please stay safe. If you can't evacuate,
absolutely.
We got you in our prayers and thoughts, and I want to thank everybody and wish you all a good evening, good night, good afternoon, all that good stuff. We'll see you tomorrow.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.